Tuesday, September 6th, 2022. Would you all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilmember Nguyen? Thank you. Will the clerk take the roll?
Elliott.
Here.
Goodlow.
Here.
Lilquist.
Here.
David Miller.
Here.
Monica Miller. Here. Wynn.
Thank you. We have one proclamation this evening in two languages. The first, Jeanette Ibarra is here from Central Washington Disability Resources. I think Jeanette is here,
I think she was going to be online.
and I don't.
She is not online.
Nancy, would you like to read her?
Hispanic Heritage Month 2022, Unidos, Inclusivity for a Stronger Nation. Whereas the Ellensburg City Council is committed to creating a community of belonging that improves the quality of life for all persons we serve. And whereas Hispanic Heritage Month celebrates the Hispanic and Latinx histories, cultures, and contributions of those whose ancestors were indigenous to North America, as well as Spain, Mexico, the Caribbean, and Central and South America. And whereas what began in 1968 as Hispanic Heritage Week under President Lyndon Johnson and expanded by President Ronald Reagan to cover a 30-day period starting September of each year, the United States annually observes Hispanic Heritage Month. And whereas the purpose of Hispanic Heritage Month is to create awareness of the contributions of people of Hispanic and Latinx heritage to American society and recognize the civil rights leaders, community organizers, politicians, teachers, journalists, first responders, artists, healthcare professionals, athletes, inventors, entertainers with a Hispanic or Latinx heritage. And whereas our Hispanic and Latinx community represents over 15% of the population of Ellensburg and provides a diverse cultural heritage that enriches the political, economic, and social growth of our community. And whereas the City Council encourages all members of our community to recognize and celebrate the accomplishments and contributions of these Hispanic and Latinx Americans, the importance of social justice and fair representation for this community in all aspects of our city life and experience, and to celebrate this rich culture with events, educational opportunities, language classes, and traditional Hispanic and Latinx foods. Now, therefore, the City Council of Ellensburg does hereby proclaim September 15th to October 15th, 2022 as Hispanic Heritage Month.
Madam Mayor, motion to approve proclamation.
We're gonna read the other one.
Oh, we're gonna do both together.
Yeah.
Do you like them separately?
Well, yeah, they're the same.
I'll withdraw. I will read.
Okay.
Apologize.
And Alex Mondafana is here from the DEI Commission to read the same proclamation in Spanish language.
City of Ellensburg Proclamation. Mes de la Herencia Hispánica 2022. Unidos. Inclusividad para una nación más fuerte. Considerando que el Consejo Municipal de Ellensburg tiene el compromiso de crear una comunidad con sentido de pertenencia que mejore la calidad de vida de todas las personas y las que servimos, y considerando que el mes de la herencia hispana celebra las historias, las culturas y las contribuciones de la población hispánica y latina cuyos ancestros fueron nativos de América del Norte, así como de España, México, el Caribe y América Central y del Sur. Y considerando que, creado en 1968 como la Semana de la Herencia Hispánica durante la presidencia de Lyndon Johnson y luego ampliado por el presidente Ronald Reagan a un periodo de 30 días a partir del 15 de septiembre de cada año. Todos los años se celebra en los Estados Unidos el mes de la herencia hispánica y considerando que el propósito del mes de la herencia hispánica es generar conciencia sobre las contribuciones de las personas de presidencia hispánica y latina a la sociedad estadounidense, así como reconocer a los líderes de derechos civiles, organizadores comunitarios, políticos, docentes, periodistas, trabajadores de servicios de emergencia, artistas profesionales de salud, atletas, inventores y animadores de procedencia hispánica y latina. Y considerando que nuestra comunidad hispánica y latina representa más de 15% de la población de Ellensburg y aporta una herencia cultural diversa que enriquece el desarrollo político, económico y social de nuestra comunidad. Y considerando que el Consejo Municipal anima a todos los miembros de nuestra comunidad a reconocer y celebrar los logros y contribuciones de estas personas hispánicas y de Latinoamérica, la importancia de la justicia social y la representación justa de esta comunidad en los aspectos de la vida y experiencia de nuestra ciudad, así como a celebrar esta rica cultura mediante eventos, oportunidades educativas, clases de idiomas y comidas tradicionales hispánica y latina. Ahora, por lo tanto, el Consejo Municipal de Ellensburg proclama por este medio el periodo de 15 de septiembre al 15 de octubre de 2022 como mes de la herencia hispánica, firmado este 6 días de septiembre de 2021.
Thank you, Alex.
Okay, now I'll jump in. Thank you. Apologies again. So Madam Mayor, I move that approval of proclaiming September as Hispanic Heritage Month in the city of Ellensburg.
Second.
Motion and second to approve the resolution to, or the proclamation for Hispanic Heritage Month in Ellensburg. Is there discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes. Thank you. Actually, I should have called for public comment. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak to this proclamation? Now that passed. Thank you. There are no awards or recognitions. An approval of the agendas before you.
Madam Mayor, I move approval of the agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion and second to approve the agenda as presented. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The consent agenda is before you.
Madam Mayor, I move consent agenda.
Second.
Motion and second to approve the consent agenda as presented. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. So we are at petition, protests, and communications, item 6. The Habitat for Humanity invitation to Stuart Meadows groundbreaking. That, is it you, Kelly?
So- Good evening, everyone. Kelly Vandenberg, Kittitas County Habitat for Humanity. You need me to state my home address for the record.
Or business address?
605 North Main Street, Suite 3, Ellensburg, Washington, 98926. We are at long last getting ready to break ground at Stewart Meadows at 113 West Bender Road. And this would not be possible without the city of Ellensburg and this council here. So tonight, I want to thank all of you in person for making this possible. For those who are not aware, Stewart Meadows is an 18-home affordable housing community neighborhood that will be developed. We are under infrastructure construction right now, and we will have our groundbreaking ceremony on Thursday, September 15th at 10 a.m. And we have a wonderful lineup of speakers, including representatives from Kim Schreiner's office, Congresswoman Kim Schreiner's office. Representative Alex Ybarra will be speaking, as well as our very own Mayor Nancy Lilliquist. Thank you for that. She's our headliner, by the way. But again, anybody that would like to attend, please do so. It's welcome. It's open to the public. And in the back here, you'll see a longstanding tradition of Habitat for Humanity. It's called Signing the Stud. Each of these studs represents one of the 6 families chosen for this wonderful affordable housing community. And they will be presented, the studs, during our groundbreaking ceremony. But when we start vertical construction, they will lay the first stud in their home, and that home will be a part of that family's tradition and a part of their walls. So all of your well wishes will help bring good love to that home. So thank you very much to the city of Ellensburg and to this council in particular for making this possible.
Thank you. Next up is the Yakima Humane Society introduction.
He's already up to.
So while we're waiting, I should have asked for public comment on the Habitat invitation. Is there anyone who would like to speak to that?
You're sort of the anti-public participation.
I'm
just
sorry.
saying.
I'm just late. I'm slow.
September 15th.
All right, good evening. I'm Cheryl Hagan. I'm the Executive Director for the Yakima Humane Society. So I felt this was a great time to kind of put a name and face together since we took over operations August 1st. And I'm hoping to be able to answer quite a few questions just by giving you a quick visual, if I could have just a few moments of your time. Hopefully, maybe we'll be good. Okay. All right, so Yakima Humane Society was actually founded in 1904, so we're not new to this business at all. We are a 501c3 nonprofit organization. We are going to be, well, actually, this is the Ellensburg, has a little bit of change in this. We will be actually open to the public Tuesday through Saturday. These are the hours that reflect what we are down in Yakima. We are still a no-kill shelter for space. What that means is to be a no-kill shelter, you have to have less than 10% euthanized per year based off of your intakes. We are right under 8%, and our euthanasia rates are only due to animals that are absolutely beyond ability to take care of, or were court ordered because they're vicious or deemed vicious dogs or cats. We were, again, in 2021, our euthanasia rate was less than 8. And again, it was for untreatable medical conditions and court ordered. There it goes. Also, Yakima Humane Society is the only open admission humane society in Yakima County, which now will be able to extend that courtesy over to Ellensburg as well for Kittitas County. And what we mean by open admissions is we do not get to breed discriminate. And so other organizations around the United States can cherry pick their animals. We don't. We take in anything and everything. And what we have to offer is, of course, we're going to bring adoptions to Ellensburg. We will continue to have ACO services, and actually you will see your animal control officer out on the street much more. We will be bringing low-cost vaccine and microchip clinics to Ellensburg. We also will extend our low-cost spay and neuter program, and that will also be extended out to Ellensburg. We now offer dental services. If you've never had to endure that, it's quite expensive. You can go anywhere from about $800 to $1,300 for dental services. All of ours are $300 and less. We also will be bringing on licensing, which will be an online service. So not only can you do your licensing at the police department, you'll be able to purchase them online or in person at the shelter. And then we do offer end-of-life services. And what we mean by end-of-life services is that is a euthanasia that we do offer to the public, but it has to be approved by a veterinarian. It can't just be because your animal all of a sudden started having a behavioral issue. Your animals just don't fit your family anymore. Our veterinarian actually has to approve them for euthanasia. Last and found reunification. We do all of our animals that are adopted through Yakima Humane Society are microchipped. And with that, that means that we can hopefully make more reunifications out in the field as Heidi is making her way around, putting faces and animals back together in their homes. And then we would love to build a volunteer foster program here as well as doing community service opportunities. I was just kind of brainstorming with the staff today. So we're going to be reaching into the schools and start hopefully educating at a very, very young age on the importance of responsible pet ownership. Community dog walking. This was actually started by a cardiologist down in Yakima, getting individuals who have recently experienced a cardiac episode, getting them up and getting them fit. And so we would love for those individuals or anybody to come out to the Humane Society and be able to select an animal and take them for a walk. And then the My Last Litter program. This is a program that we launched about 2 years ago down in Yakima. If you have an unwanted litter, we ask that you relinquish the babies to us. And in return, we spay mom for free. We vaccinate, we microchip, we license them for them. And then if they can keep the litter with them until they're 8 weeks of age, we will provide all of the essential necessities to care for those animals. And then this was the structure that we have in Yakima. As you can see, we're regulated by a board of directors, which then comes down to me as a working director to a donor development coordinator. We also have our own medical director, our own veterinarian. We have a clinic director who oversees that facility for us. Veterinarian techs, assistants, behavioralists, transfer coordinators, customer service representatives, kennel staff, animal caregivers and medication aides, animal control officers, and then a non-paid position that is our volunteer coordinator. So that's what makes up our main frame there in Yakima. In Ellensburg, we'll be bringing the same thing. We'll still report to our board of directors and myself, as well as our veterinarian. And then the clinic manager, she will dedicate X amount of time to come here as well, as long as with our veterinarian tech. The only thing we won't have on staff here is our vet assistant, because we can do pretty much everything via FaceTime with our vets and our vet tech. You'll have customer service, kennel staff, and then of course, the animal control officer that has been supplied through the city. And this is just kind of an example of what we'll be reporting back to the city. We will every month be providing how many animals have come in, how they came in, if there was any after hours that we supplied staffing for. And it's broken down by owner surrenders, over the counter intakes, as well as field services. And then kind of as we made through the first 30 days in our transition, we're going to rebrand it from what is known as a pound. Oftentimes you hear it's referred to as the Ellensburg Pound or the Ellensburg Shelter. And we want to improve that and make it an adoption center, because our goal is to give these animals a second chance. As well as we'll be training our staff. And so now we have a one chart that flows with the animal from the time they come in to the time they go over to our clinic and receive medical care, as well as their spay and neuters, and to the point to when they are actually adopted. There is actually going to be one chart that follows them, and that is extended here to Ellensburg as well. The staff is being trained up on medical protocols, just like in the civilian world. There'll be certain things that the staff, if they fit X, Y, and Z, they can go ahead and administer and take care of animals in the moment. A lot of times things come in late at night. And so they're going to have guidance to help get these animals safe and hopefully pain-free until the morning when we can be seen by the vets. We're going to open up the shelter to adoptions, which we've already done. We have taken in 43 animals since August 1st, and we have successfully placed 20 animals out, whether it be adoption or reunification or transfers. And then of course, we'll be introducing the licensing program online, as well as developing a volunteer base. And then ways to get involved with us is through fostering. So we can always use a great pool of fosters, doing outreach, donating, or just simply volunteering with us, either at the adoption center, doing special events, or even providing transportation. And then just a famous quote that I absolutely love is there's no stronger heart than that of a volunteer. So we depend heavily on our volunteers. And this is just in place for those that are a little woozy. Look away if you're not okay. These are some of our alumni to show you that we are a no-kill shelter. We have an incredible amount of three-legged dogs running around Yakima Valley. They all live very healthy, fulfilling lives, and three-legged cats. As you can see, that litter of puppies there was pulled out of a hoarding situation. The kitty there that has no eyes, literally has no eyes, and has been placed in a home completely sightless and is thriving immensely. And the other one kind of decided to jump the fence one day to chase a girl, and it didn't really bode well for him. And then just a few others for us. As you can see, we don't give up on our animals. That is the one thing. The one in the middle and the bottom became very famous during the wildfires last year, known as Flame. A firefighter actually pulled him out of a burning bush. And Flame now has her own blog and YouTube and everything else. So and then for us on our future, when this video will play, this is something that we played during our fur ball, and it just kind of talked a little bit about what we're planning to do. Oh, it's not gonna play. Just log into it. Okay, I can do that real quick. I apologize. Let's get it going as quick as you can. that videos to show that this is what the work is done day in and day out. So that is done in our facility with our staff. That is everything that YHS stands for, which is giving animals a second chance. So that's pretty much where we stand. If there's questions,
Thank you, Cheryl. Council, do you have questions?
Just sincere thanks for being here.
absolutely.
Appreciate it.
Very welcome. Thank you.
Can you share about the open house?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Most important. This Friday from 6 to 8, we're going to have an open house out of the shelter. So we'd love for you guys to come by. We're going to do hot dogs, chips, water, have adoptable pets on board, and have a lot of information to be able to pass on to the community.
Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to comment on the presentation?
So we're right over on Industrial Way, right by where the waste.
If you could,
Yes.
Cheryl, if you could speak to the microphone so that
Absolutely, absolutely.
everyone,
We are right over by the waste station. So it's 1007 Industrial Way.
thank you.
Very welcome.
There'll be puppies to pet?
Oh, yes, we have puppies that are actually getting taken care of today. They will be there Friday.
Is there anyone online who would like to ask a question or comment? Seeing no one raise their hand. Thank you
You're very
again for
welcome.
being here, and we look forward to working with you.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, we are at item 6C, in which we hear introductions from our next council member. So we have 3 now applicants to replace Bruce Tabb on the council. David Rolfe has withdrawn his application. So is Kathleen Bartholomew in the room?
I believe Kathleen was going to be online.
I do not see her.
So if you want to move on, I will see if I can contact her.
Okay. Sarah Beauchamp.
Oh, this looks oddly familiar. So I have 3 minutes. Yes, I'm gonna do my. All right, so I'd like to first take the opportunity to thank City Council for giving me the chance to formally introduce myself for the open position on the number 4 City Council. I'm Sarah Beauchamp, and I moved to Ellensburg 4 years ago, and I haven't looked back. I am blessed to have 3 beautiful souls that call me mom, all who call Ellensburg home, and an ever-changing number of grandkids because my oldest daughter and her wife are foster parents. I followed my oldest child, Abby, over here. She thought she got me, but nope, I followed her, brought my youngest with me. My parents then soon followed. And then my last middle child was the last to follow. Got a call from my son-in-law and started asking a little bit about being a small business owner in Ellensburg, and I knew I had them. So they moved over in April. So we are all here now in Ellensburg. So we are invested and we are staying. I've always said it takes a village. And my village is very quirky, but it works. And because of the quirkiness of my village, it gives me a lot of insights to a lot of areas of our community. My mom and dad help make up our senior population. All my children are young adults looking to start their lives here in Ellensburg, families buying their first homes. One of my children is a small business owner in town. 2 of my children are members of our LGBT community. I have one amazing autistic grandson who was legally adopted through the foster system, and many precious children who call me grandma on a revolving basis. So I have a very unique insight to that system in all its glory and unfortunately a lot of its failures. My 2 closest friends, both men, one is a gay man, one is a Black man. So you're probably wondering why I bring so much attention to my village, but it is, they inspire me. These are the people that, sorry, they're my people. They inspire me, they push me, and yes, at times they frustrate me. But it gives me an insight into gives you an insight into the diversity of my circle and the people that I choose to call my village and who help me make these decisions on a daily basis. Professionally, I have been a member of the Ellensburg Downtown Association and helped on several committees and events. I work with the city manager and fellow business owners to help bring the proposal to city council for the streeteries, which I believe is on your desk as we speak. Currently, I serve on the board of directors for our farmers market. I also serve as a board member for Helen House, our LGBTQ teen. And I'm also on the lodging tax advisory committee for the city. So all of these things look good on a resume and might stand alone as qualifications. But I believe that my best qualification is being a small business owner. It has taught me persistence, resilience, time management, although they might argue a little bit on that one, how to make tough decisions and problem solve. But most importantly, it gives me a real connection to the heartbeat of our community, its people. So I thank you again for your time and look forward to being a member of City Council. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Henry Johnston.
I didn't actually prepare any remarks. I usually speak from the cuff most of the time. I'm Henry Johnston, residence address 301 East 3rd, just the big brick building down on the corner known as Johnston and Williams Funeral Home, which I own. I applied to be on the city council because the role of the town funeral director is one of service. We are the people that answer the phone in the middle of the night and come when you need us. We are the people that are there at people's darkest times. But we also serve our community in other ways. I serve on the Hospice Friends Board. I currently serve on the Kittitas County Chamber of Commerce Board. I'm a member of the Ellensburg Downtown Rotary Club, and try to be a very conscientious and giving member of our business community and of our community. We sponsor a lot in town. I'm not saying that to brag. I'm just saying that's how embedded I am and committed to Ellensburg. I think the one point of view that I would be able to bring to the council that I do feel is needed is a representative of the business community. I, on a monthly basis, pay taxes, pay state taxes, I pay city taxes, I make paychecks, I make sure paychecks clear. I keep the thing going. And you know, another perspective of that too is being a downtown business owner. So, you know, Sarah and I both have that going on. I just think I bring a unique business-minded perspective to the council, and I look forward to answering questions a little more in depth next week.
Thank you. Okay, I am not seeing Kathleen Bartholomew.
Ms. Bartholomew confirmed she withdrew.
Okay. We are down to 2.
Better odds than the last time.
No kidding.
Thank you both for sticking in there with us. We appreciate you being here this evening and look forward to talking further next week at 6 Monday evening. I believe it will be broadcast, and everyone's welcome to come back and listen in as well. So thank you. Moving on, Centrifuge semi-annual update.
We'll help you get it loaded there.
Thank you, Drew.
Tall person of a quorum. Good evening. My name is Margaret Reich, and I'm the Executive Director for Centerfuse. We're located at 207 North Pearl in Ellensburg. I want to thank Mayor Littlequist, City Council members, and Heidi for arranging the time for Centerfuse to provide an update on our work since February. I also want to thank Centerfuse board members who are present here in person. And I think Bob Rapp is here virtually, at least.
Yes, he is, as is Jennifer Lubansky.
Oh, fantastic. And so I want to thank Jennifer, Bob, and our members present here for being here tonight. Again, tonight's presentation of one of two delivered each year to council to provide updates to our work. So this is who we are. We are a public development authority that was established through city ordinance. We're a nonprofit 501c6. We're guided by a 9-member volunteer board, have a part-time executive director, and our focus is on recruiting businesses who align with the Ellensburg community and raise the area's median income. We work with our partner organizations, the Chamber and the Ellensburg Downtown Association, who, unlike Centerfuse, have a focus that's more on tourism, hosting events, and training and serving their business members. The other distinguishing difference is we're a 501c6, not a 501c3. And what that means is that as a 501c3, they have greater access to funding through foundations and trusts and can provide donors with charitable deductions. We can do neither of those. So it's hard to imagine that Centerfuse is almost 30 years old. We've moved through different iterations of our operation, from being city staffed to a contract arrangement with the chamber to our current configuration where Centerfuse hires its staff. And it's been quite a journey. As mentioned during the last presentation to council in February, we are committed to remaining a public development authority as far as our organizational construct. So our revenue streams in 2022, we get funding from various sources to support both our operational and our project costs. And each January, we elect a slate of officers. These are our officers for 2022. Garrett Pashusta is chair. He's here in the audience. Andreas Bowman, vice chair. Grant Clark is our treasurer for life. And Dale Bankston, also in the audience today, is our secretary. So you've heard a little bit about who we are. Now I want to talk a little bit about what we do. So we're about economic development. So what is that? Well, the International Economic Development Council, which is the premier economic development association that organizations rely on, says that economic development is the intentional practice of improving a community's economic well-being and quality of life. It's truly that simple. So that's where our focus is as we go about developing our work plan and strategic targets each year. So this year we're working on 3 different, our work is aligned with 4 different pillars, making sure that our organization is effective, building local capacity, marketing Ellensburg, and recruiting businesses. In addition to that, there's day-to-day operational things that the executive director performs, doing all the financials, preparing for board meetings and board interactions, our reporting for leasehold tax and grant reporting. We own a building that has 4 tenants that we manage. And then we're also responsible for responding to requests for information about Ellensburg. And as far as communications, we do our twice yearly communications to council.
Rich Elliott is our council liaison and reports back to council after our monthly board meetings, which are open to the public. You can always visit and learn more about us on our websites. We have 2 of them, startinellensburg.com and ellensburgcentrifuge.com. And all of our meeting minutes are online and available to view. And always, our door is open. Stop by for a visit, send us an email, give us a call. So now you have a little bit of information about what we do. I'm going to talk now about why that matters. So there's a organization called Self-Sufficiency Standards, and they gather information about income needs in various communities. And the data that's presented on this slide is from 2022. I included what the Self-Sufficiency Organization lists as the cost of housing, childcare, and food, as in my experience, I think we're higher than what's indicated here. So just of note, I was looking at Redfin in January 2012, the median single family home sold for $141,000. And in July of 2022, $481,000. That's an over 350% increase in a decade. During that same time frame, average wages rose, but not at that rate. So Centrifuge seeks to raise the median wage for Ellensburg, and statistically speaking, that is happening. However, job creation lags. And you'll see that Ellensburg jobs growth is akin to Granger over that decade-long period. So Centrifuge's role is in job creation is to recruit businesses to Ellensburg that complement our community assets and values. We work with businesses in our 5 key industry sectors who will create quality wage jobs here. We're proud to report we have attracted literally hundreds of new jobs to Ellensburg, but our ability to realize these jobs requires partnerships. So you've heard a little bit about why it matters, and now I'm going to talk about some of our results that have happened since we last met. So we're very focused on priority work, and that work gets accomplished through partnerships. And we want to report to you today that we applied for a USDA Rural Business Development Program grant. The purpose of the grant is to inventory non-residential building and land. We've been awarded $25,000. The grant is written, submitted, and the funding is secured, and there's an RFP out right now seeking consultant services for that grant. Each year we apply for Kittitas County Distress Grant Funds. That the money that the application is made to cover economic development personnel, and we asked and received $72,000. Another source of funding is from the Community Economic Revitalization Board. We applied for some planning money for value-added wood products expansion feasibility study. Grant was written, submitted for a $50,000 ask, and we have a staff due fund recommendation on that curb planning grant. We have a second curb planning grant. The grant's been written and submitted, and we have a staff due fund recommendation for $50,000 to fund an I-90 West interchange private development study. We have a third curb grant that's in progress right now for $25,000 that will fund artist production and performance space feasibility study. This is related to the Ellensburg Arts and Cultural Alliance. We were the lead author on a grant to Washington State Department of Commerce for the Building for the Arts. The applicant is the Clymer Foundation. The grant's written, submitted, and staff recommendations have been forwarded to the governor. That grant is for $140,250 to renovate the Ramsey Building Ballroom. So providing an elevator for access, making that ballroom a public facility. And we get funding from the city of Ellensburg through our interagency that's dated November 12th of 2020. That funding is for economic development services, and it's for $60,000. We also just submitted a grant to the City of Ellensburg Community Grant Program in the amount of $15,000 to expand our PAT tank program to include not only CWU undergrad students in entrepreneurship and business planning, but also to reach into the high school as well. So you can see with the $60,000 that the city is investing in Centerfuse, there's quite a substantial community benefit there. So we all know that there's been increased development interest. I mean, city staff are seeing it all the time, and we're seeing it as well. And I get asked frequently, how do people find out about Centerfuse? And so I just wanted to share with you, the answer is mostly through client referrals. So people we've worked with before say, call her, call them. They know they can help you out, or through our website. That's how we get our referrals most of the time. So I want to talk a little bit about some of the services that we've been providing to various customers. And these are just samples. These are just examples. This is not all inclusive. So we've worked with a distribution centers consultants for many months now. At their request, we facilitated a meeting focused on incentives in May. Both Mayor Littlequist and Heidi attended that meeting. And we, Centerfuse and the consultant, prepared a letter to Washington Commerce requesting $425,000 from the governor's strategic reserve fund. The review of this request is scheduled for September 13th. I'm currently working with a site location consultant whose client is interested in creating 150 quality wage jobs and establishing a facility in Ellensburg. The business is interested in leasing 100 acres out at Bowers Field. So I'm working with the county and this particular business. Consolidated, Ellensburg's broadband provider, is expanding and improving their service here in Ellensburg. The work is happening now. It's self-funded, and around 6,000 premises will have 2 gig service in 2023. We don't just work with the larger businesses, we help small businesses as well. One example is the co-location and expansion of one of our tenants out of the airport building. The expansion created new jobs and brought a third business line into Ellensburg for this small business. So you've heard a little bit about results and outcome. Now I want to talk about the business climate in Ellensburg. So the shape of a funnel is a great way to visualize the business development climate in Ellensburg. Centerfuse is at the opening of the funnel, offering a concierge service to businesses interested in locating here. Centerfuse is trying to get quality wage jobs into our community. However, to realize these jobs, it takes partnerships. Without partners, jobs move into the funnel, they get stuck, then they disappear. So a more desirable business approach looks like a pipeline. Our market research shows businesses appreciate and come to expect the personalized professional concierge service offered by Centerfuse. And working with our partners, we seek to transform the funnel to a pipeline to bring quality wage jobs to Ellensburg and to increase revenues for the city. So how do we get there? There's opportunities for us to do better. So some of the gunk that's in the funnel that slows down our work is these 3 items. So the cost of doing business in Ellensburg is not competitive. That's what we hear from our customers. One customer reached out a couple of weeks ago and asked why Ellensburg's building permits are so high. After doing some analysis, I learned that building permits are significantly higher than competing communities. I did not share that information with the customer. I simply suggested that the client reach out to the city and ask them to take a look at their permit fees. I see there's an ordinance before council tonight to update the building code. Customers have stated processing times are long and result in unexpected expenses for businesses. One customer told one of my board members, I was happy to get my conditional use permit in 8 months. Infrastructure costs impacts businesses' ability to choose Ellensburg. I heard from a customer recently that the cost of the city's infrastructure requirements was more than the cost to buy the land, so they went someplace else. Public information. The economic development chapter in the Ellensburg Comprehensive Plan is woefully outdated. In addition to viewing notes from planning commission meetings, our customers rely on current accurate information to be available so they can make decisions. I know that this is something that the city is working on. Included in our market research and mentioned at the May meeting with the prospective buyer of the Anderson property, we heard other communities make current permit activity available online as a map. And I believe that the city staff are working on this as well. And finally, the last item, reinvestment. A top priority for City Council in 2011 was to focus on the relationship with EBDA. And at a recent retreat, economic development was identified as a council top priority. Centrifuge has contracted with a human resource firm to perform a staffing study, including an audit, assessment, and recommendations for our future focused organization. The time is right for the city to reinvest in Centrifuge. So we want to ignite new conversations with City Council. Our work hinges on the partnership with the city to move from the funnel to the pipeline and to be that business-friendly community we want to be. So we ask to fully engage Centrifuge in the comp plan economic development chapter rewrite. We ask for council to pass a resolution to study and adjust city fees and incentives and cost to developers of city infrastructure in comparison to peer communities every 3 years to ensure Ellensburg's competitive position in business recruitment. We ask that the city create and maintain an online tool, a map, showing all permit activity. We ask that council begin exploring, as other jurisdictions do, a free pre-development conference and a commitment to no more than 30 days from application intake to building permit issuance. And we ask City Council to consider financially supporting the recommendations contained in the Human Resource Consultant Staffing Plan Report for Centrifuge. So as always, we continue to be committed to business growth and diversifying and expanding Ellensburg's economy, to attracting quality wage jobs, to having a long-term lens for economic development, and to collaboration. So thank you for your time, and we can answer any questions you might have.
Are there any questions from the council?
I guess, no, not a question, but more to city staff. So obviously I've been sitting in on Centrifuge's meetings and kind of have an idea where a lot of this is coming from. And, I would like to have a measured conversation, structured conversation, not just about the recommendations, but sort of economic development. And I don't know how to make that happen, other than to say, I'd like to make that happen.
We can make that happen.
It's easy. It's only took one vote.
Yeah, we have, the tip strategy is still underway. There's a lot of moving pieces. But I agree with new council members on board. I think that a kind of a high level discussion, at least at first, about economic development and what that is and what our philosophy on this council is about economic development and would be worthwhile.
Yeah, I think we need to update it.
Just, you know, we have new people, there might be new vision. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to comment? There is one person online who would like to. Fennell Miller.
Hello, Fennell Miller, 605 North Anderson Street, Ellensburg, speaking for myself. I think that everyone acknowledges that economic development is critical for communities, especially smaller ones like ours that really have to make a concerted effort to attract new development and to encourage existing businesses to grow, etc. But as in all things, I would just beg you to not jump in with all, 14 feet, and would not figure out what the ramifications are of some of these. It scares me when someone says speeding up the process to 30 days, and speeding up the process is really important. I have lots of clients around the state of Washington that always complain about the permitting process taking too long, costing too much. But if the permitting process happens too quickly, things get overseen, like the historic nature, the historic issues around streeteries that you discussed in June, sort of got forgotten in the rush to get that up in front of council and get something adopted. And, you know, I helped work on the critical areas ordinance way back when in its initial form. And I wouldn't want to see any of these important issues that go to our quality of life and also economic development get lost in the shuffle to adopt everything and do it as fast as possible. So I guess I would say I'm in support of all of this, but just please don't rush too hard, too fast, that you don't have time for all the other issues that the city has committed to in its comp plan and its weekly actions over and over again for, the last 20 years. Thank you.
Thank you. One more time, anyone would like to speak on this issue? Any questions?
Thank you very much for the presentation.
Thank
Nancy?
you. I just want to say I appreciate it. Very, the clarity and the directness. Really appreciate it.
This member, could you speak into the microphone?
I'm speaking into it. Okay. I appreciate the presentation, its clarity and its directness and straightforwardness, and I'm looking forward to the conversation that we've agreed to have. Thank you, Margaret.
Thank you very much.
Thank you to the Centrifuge board members for attending. We are at something that usually happens way earlier in the meeting, citizen comment on non-agenda issues. This is time for folks to speak to the council on issues that are not on the current agenda, but they do have to concern the city's business. When you're recognized, please come to the podium and the microphone and state your name and address and whether you're representing yourself or others. You'll be limited to 3 minutes, and there's a little timer on the screen to keep us honest. And if you have anything written, if you would present that to the city clerk, please. Derek Allen is here and signed up.
Hello, Hi,
Mr. Allen.
my name's Derek Allen. I live at 408 South Maple, or sorry, the pastor at the church, 408 South Maple. I live right next to the church building at 1007 East Manitoba. I'm representing myself. And I honestly, I don't even know if this is the right venue for this. it just kind of came to a head for a few things, but increasingly over the last couple of years, there's just been a presence of very highly disruptive teenagers going down the street at 40, 50 miles an hour, drinking all night long at the park, at Mountain View Park, into 1, 2 a.m., call the cops, and they drive by, all the kids get in their car, leave. Last year around on graduation night, they were drinking out of a beer bong at the park, middle of the day, called the cops, came in and then left, and then all the kids left and then drove away, and another cop came in 10 minutes later. And by then, all the kids were gone. And so increasingly, they've been disruptive and destructive. So our little community mailbox was bashed into and broken. We've had to put ecology blocks on the south entrance of our church building because they were doing donuts and fishtailing through our parking lot. And I guess what I'm asking is if we can police that park. If I can request just police presence, something. They're like I said, they're drinking and doing drugs. They caught one couple in our parking lot having sex. It's out of hand, and I don't know what to do. This is kind of like my last place that I can go. I went down to the police station, called the cops nightly. It doesn't change. And like I said, the drinking and the excessive speeding all through the night, there's an accident bound to happen. There's already been a couple of physical, like property damage things, but there is a major accident that is close to occurring. And I'm just saying, I'd rather something happen now than later on. When we say if we would have done something then, this catastrophe might not have happened. So I'm just asking as a pastor of a church that's been in the community for 65 years. We serve the community with a clothing bank and with all sorts of other things. The father whose kids are now afraid to go to the park because all through the day and night, there's extremely loud music, very vulgar music, very vulgar people screaming and shouting and fighting in the park. It needs to stop. And I'm just asking you if we can police that Mountain View Park, please.
Thank you for bringing that to our attention. We cannot act on your request at this meeting. We can put it on a future agenda or ask staff to look into things. But we do appreciate you bringing it to us.
Thanks.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the audience, Mr. Kelleher?
Pat Kelleher, 6530 Wilson Creek Road, speaking for myself. The city is planning a $1.8 million renovation of Unity Park. The existing condition, pictures aren't very good, but you have the drive-through here on 4th Street, on Pearl Street. You have the bowl in the Rotary Pavilion. You have the north wall at the north end, and you have the alley. The consultant that was hired is putting forth a preferred option, and their proposal is to strip the existing park of all things and get to a white sheet and start anew. I feel that this is a great waste of money, and there's a better option that we could pursue. The first is on 4th Street, where the drive-through is you could put frosted firehouse doors on both sides, creating a mini storage in your restrooms. On Pearl, you can move the stage up to the north wall, and it'd be a complete stage wired for sound. And then on the alley, I want to leave the parking there. Okay, so we reconstruct our box. Okay, and there's neat things you can do once you have your box constructed. You can go to a local establishment and get a cup of coffee, throw a couple picnic tables in there, and enjoy a cup of coffee. Your stage is fully lit, ready to go. The Jazz in the Valley can come to the stage, get everything set up, and just add a little additional cowbell. We're going to keep our parking on the alley. And for the liquor events, your box, your perimeter is already set for the liquor control board. So what you have is a space that's low cost, ready to go. And for example, if you wanted to have a magic show on a Wednesday night, all you would have to do is break out a deck of cards. Let it rip. Thank you.
Thank you for the entertaining presentation, Mr. Keller. And as you know, we don't take action on anything brought to us in public comment. So actually calling once more, is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak on items not on the agenda? And anyone online who would like to speak? Seeing no one, we will move to item 9, introduction and adoption of ordinances and resolutions. We have an ordinance 4895, second reading of the regulation regulating camping on city properties, page 165.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council, Terry Weiner, Assistant City Manager, City Attorney. So tonight before you, you have the second reading and adoption, proposed adoption of ordinance 4895 to regulate camping on city-owned property. And as I reviewed at the last meeting, and as you are aware, there's been an increase of incidents involving our homeless population and camping on public property, particularly in the downtown business district and at the library, and on occasion at Unity Park. And although the city does have a general prohibition against camping in city parks, there's not a citywide prohibition against camping on public property. Part of that is due to the fact that there is federal case law out of our Ninth Circuit, which covers the western states, which says that you can't completely prohibit camping on public property and sleeping at night for the homeless population unless you have somewhere to put them, in other words, a shelter. And that's been an obstacle. We do have a cold weather shelter that operates generally from mid-November through mid-March, but we don't have a year-round sleep centers that some cities do, such as Walla Walla or Moses Lake and some other cities. So the purpose of this ordinance really is to position the city so that if and when hopefully a year-round sleep center is open, that we can move people off of the public property, out of the business, downtown business district, and to a place that's safe and welcoming and has services available for them, which would be the sleep center. And this ordinance will put us in a position to do this, as was reviewed at some earlier study sessions. That's exactly what happened, for instance, in Moses Lake when they went to their sleep center. Until that sleep center becomes a reality, though, we still want to have the ability, if needed, to regulate camping on public property in certain of the city's areas, such as Unity Park, and the library. So this ordinance still gives us the flexibility and says, even though you may not have the year-round sleep center, there are certain places where you can still regulate camping, because that case I referred to, the city of Boise case, doesn't prohibit a city from trying to regulate camping on all city property, just says you can't prohibit it on every piece of city property. So that's what we're sort of targeting here, is saying that if there are instances where for public safety or because of public health matters, we need to move people out of the areas they are camping when there isn't overnight shelter space available, we may have to do that. So that's the purpose and the design of the ordinance. And with that, I would recommend second reading adoption of ordinance 4895, and happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions?
I have none, but I would move second reading adoption of ordinance 4895.
Second.
Motion and second for second reading and adoption of ordinance 4895, regulating camping on city property. It's not too late for questions.
Well, that's actually better since we have a motion on the floor. So I had a question for the attorney. The interim free sleep center application. Is it your opinion that we would be in line with the Boise decision without designating specific areas? I mean, is it good enough to say we can figure it out when the time comes, or do we have to actually identify? We take the city facilities off the list, but are there others that we have to actually formally designate?
No, I don't think it's required, because it's sort of a inverse. We've designated the properties where it's not allowed.
Right.
So I think that satisfies the requirements of the Boise case by limiting it, we're not prohibiting it on all city property, but just the ones that are identified in the ordinance.
Okay.
Nancy, did you have
Yeah, that answers my question. Thank you.
anyone else? Further discussion?
I think we need to invite public comment.
Oh, that's right. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak to the camping on city property issue? Is there anyone online who would like to speak? Seeing no one. All in favor?
This is a
I'll do
roll
a-
call.
I'm sorry.
Roll call. That's okay. I was gonna try and catch you before you did it. Elliot,
Yes.
Goodlow,
Yes.
David Miller,
Aye.
Monica Miller,
Yes.
Wynn,
Yes.
Lilquist.
Yes.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Ellensburg, Washington relating to camping and creating a new chapter to the Ellensburg City Code entitled 5.70 Regulating Public Camping.
Thank you. We are at item 9B, ordinance 4896, potentially a first reading, amending the building code fees in chapter 3.01 and adding a new section. Mr. Ailing.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of council. This is Jamie Ailing with Community Development Department. And what I have before you tonight is an ordinance to amend our building permit fees and adding a new section entitled 3.01210 fees and additional charges. We have gone through, and it was pointed out, so we did a little background research. We discovered a discrepancy in our fee table for projects that are over $100,000 in valuation. We have an adopted fee table that we work off of, which closely resembles that fee table that is also in the 1997 Uniform Building Code that most cities use as a reference when setting their fees. The proposed changes will closer align with other jurisdictions and reflect charges incurred for us to do reviews and inspections. Within your packet on page 192 specifically, you can see the proposed changes that we would be proposing. Most places don't typically lower fees, but we found a discrepancy that would ultimately essentially do that. We're looking, our current table only has 2 columns for projects from 100,000 to 500,000 and then 500,000 and over. And the 97 UBC table has 3 columns, which breaks that down a little bit more specific to projects to $100,000 to $500,000 in value, which we would recommend doing the base fee of $1,172.63 for the first 100,000, and then $6.60 for each additional 1,000 thereof. And then when you get into the next, this is where the big adjustment starts. Before we would then go from 500,000 and up, and we charged a fee plus $11 for each additional 1,000 fraction thereof. And we're proposing to insert 2 different rows here, a 500,000 to $1 million, with a base fee, building permit fee of $3,972.63 for the first 500,000, and then $4.75 for each additional 1,000. And then the last one, removing that $11 charge and go on the base fee for projects of $1 million in valuation and over to $6,347.63 for the base fee, plus $3.65 per $1,000 or fraction thereof for permits. Those are the changes proposed for the fee structure. We did do some fact checking and see, kind of compare if a larger project and bigger valuation did come in, what would those fees be in Ellensburg versus some of our surrounding jurisdictions of like size. We checked with City of Wenatchee, City of Yakima, City of Moses Lake, City of Quincy, and found that for particular projects of the larger value, say we took 65 million as one example, just to test the theory. And yes, we did find that it would be between $300,000 to $400,000 for permit fees in those other jurisdictions. And ours would have been significantly higher with that $11 valuation, upwards of $1 million for permits. So to align with those, we want to stick with the RCW that states we cover our charges incurred for those reviews and inspections. The second part of this ordinance would be to add a section to address kind of repeat offenders that tend to continually start construction projects without getting permits. There is a provision currently in the IBC and the IRC, the International Building Code, the International Residential Code, a code section that allows the building official to set a rate for projects that commence prior to commence construction prior to permitting. But we have not officially set that fee. So what we'd like to do with this ordinance is set that as a doubling of the permit fee. In essence is what that, and that would be reflected on page 200 of your packet. There's a section underlined section 2. Any person who commences any work on a building structure, electrical, gas, mechanical, plumbing system before obtaining necessary permits shall be subject to the following fees in addition to the required permit fees. And we would say for commercial or residential, twice the normal and customary permit fee. And that would need to be paid prior to submittal of our issuance of a permit. And that is what is proposed with these changes in ordinance 4896 that we recommend a first reading of. This information was presented to the Planning Commission at the August 25th meeting, and Planning Commission concurred and recommended council consider this as presented by staff.
Council, do you have questions for Mr. Amy? I have one question. The $6,347 base fee for million and over appears to be higher than the comparables that you presented, like Moses Lake and Quincy, and they were all in the 5,000 to 6,000 range.
It's all a compounding issue with what you start your starting fee at. So it compounds where you start your base fee at the 100,000 up to 500,000, the 1172, and then how we arrange. It's just the mathematical equation. So it is a touch higher, but we do have. I do feel like it is still comparable. It is lower than some of the jurisdictions and higher than others, and we do have some intricacies in our permits and that we need to review, that we need to collect and cover that cost, especially on the larger projects that tend to have more in-depth fire systems and alarm systems, exiting requirements. So that's why we landed at that 6,000 base figure.
So you feel that is the true cost of providing the service?
Yes, I do.
Any other questions? Is there anyone in the public who'd like to speak to this issue? Is there anyone online who would like to speak? Okay, seeing no one.
Madam Mayor, I move first reading of ordinance 4896.
Second.
Motion and second for ordinance 4896, amending the building code fees.
I'd like to talk to that.
Okay.
Speak very strongly in favor of the ordinance. I think that this takes a small step, a very appropriate step, both from a legal liability and from an economic development standpoint, in terms of our large building fees, and it recovers our cost, which is what we're supposed to be doing. The liability being if we're collecting more than we're supposed to, we have to refund that money potentially. And on the backside, I'm very much aware of that there are people in the community who do initiate building projects without permits because there's no penalty attached to it. And generally they go to the front of the line because they get red tagged and there's no economic disincentive for them to do it. And so I think I know from the fire side, we spend a disproportionate amount of our time with people who bypass the system to the disadvantage of the people who follow the system. And it needs to be corrected. It needs to be, not so painful that it causes somebody to go out of business, but it needs to be painful enough that people start following the process. And that's what this does.
Anyone else who'd like to comment? Discussion? So I'll call the question. All in favor? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I too will vote aye. That motion carries.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Ellensburg, Washington relating to Chapter 3.01 Building Codes, amending Section 3.01.180 and adding a new section to the Ellensburg City Code entitled 3.01.20210 Fees, Additional Charges.
Thank you. We are at item 11A, notice of intent to commence annexation proceedings. Mr. Ailing again.
All right, thank you, Madam Mayor, members of council. Jamie Ailing again with Community Development. And what you have before you tonight here is a notice of intention to commence annexation proceedings on parcel 744-134, 474-134, 513-634, and 503-634, located at 1900 Brick Road. It's also the location of the cemetery. The Oddfellows own this property. The original application included a 5th parcel number. However, that parcel is a small skinny strip on the west side of the project that is already included. It's already within the city limits, so there's no need to annex a piece of property that's already in the city. So it does consist of 4 parcels. They would propose to bring these in, would request a residential low density zoning designation rather than an RS. It is consistent with our comprehensive plan to go with RL. RL does allow cemeteries and also would allow a housing on the southern portion that is not cemetery, that they have a future desire to construct a housing project on those properties. Hence the reason they would like to annex and get city utilities to that property. What the process of annexation is, it comes to council as a notice saying they would like to annex. Council shall consider the request and accept, reject, or modify the proposed annexation. If you accept it, it doesn't constitute approval, but affirms that we will go through the process to figure that out. We should decide the simultaneous adoption of zoning, which I mentioned they request RL and staff would support that. And also to consider whether the city shall require the assumption of all part of or existing city indebtedness by the area if annexed. This is adjacent to the city limits on two sides, and is a logical step. It's in our urban growth area, and we, as staff, would recommend that council consider accepting this as presented and move forward through the process, which will also include a future public hearing and ultimately ordinance adoption.
Thank you. Okay, council, is there questions for Mr. Ailing? Is there anyone left in the public who would like to speak to this issue? And anyone online? Seeing no one.
Hi. Hello.
Yes.
Hi, my name is Jeanette Ibarra. So I got here a little late and I apologize. It was I was supposed to be here reading the proclamation for the Hispanic heritage, but I got here a little bit late.
So
I apologize.
we have already read and adopted those
Yes.
proclamations.
Yes, so I apologize about that.
Thank you. So actually, Jamie, I have a question on the map on page 214. The annexation area is goes to the east side of Brick Road, and it looks like the city boundary is currently on the west side of Brick Road.
Correct.
Would the city not annex that section of Brick Road?
No, we are required, so it would include the inclusion of Brick Road.
Okay. So that line would be on top of each other one way or another.
Yeah, currently the city limits is on the west side of Brick Road. With the annexation, it would move it all the way over to the east side of Fenning Road.
So that was my question. So the line would actually fall on the east side of Fenning,
Correct.
depicted on the west side right now. So actually,
So
Yeah, the highlight, I apologize, this was provided by the applicant, that the red line was mainly highlighting, it would only select the parcels and it didn't include the right of ways, but we are required, we include the entire right of way so we don't get into this start-stop maintenance of roads with county city involvement.
So when we set the annexation area, it is not what is on the attached map. We would amend that to be the west side of Brick Road and the east side of Fenning Road.
Yes.
Yeah, I think by operational law, we are required to include that,
Okay,
but it's
so
not
we
part of the
don't
parcel.
need to say anything. We
You do
just
not need to set
set the
the-
annexation area and we're gonna take
Just
care of that.
curious though, with the conversation about the other two roads, would we also do the same thing for the small section of Game Farm Road?
Correct.
So we get that intersection.
Yeah.
And yes, there is potential that it could be, once we get past this point, you can modify annexations. You cannot add to them once they're established, but you can reduce. There is a parcel, the four parcels consist of, one is the northern tier. There's a triangle that comes down to about the first road through the cemetery is one parcel. There's a additional, the main bulk of the cemetery is parcel 2, and then there are two smaller parcels that line up with roughly the church and the little leg that extends on the south part of the property. So it could be potentially reduced if determined it was problematic. But currently don't see any major concerns.
Okay, thank you. So from here, this would go to Planning Commission as.
Yes.
So, council,
Madam Mayor, I move that we approve the intent to annex with the listed parcels.
Second.
I'm sorry, Councilman. I would suggest we follow the recommendations in terms of 1, 2, and 3. Oh, there we go. On page 210.
So we would set the annexation area as shown and discussed. Direct the simultaneous adoption of zoning as provided for in this agenda report and determine whether the city should require the assumption of outstanding debt.
Is that a motion?
I'm not doing that.
Was that?
Okay, I will move that. Yes.
Second.
I think there needs to be a withdrawal of the first motion because it did receive a second.
It did receive a second, but I will withdraw it.
Second.
Oh, did it receive it? I'm sorry.
No, never happened.
We'll just erase that
It's gone.
from the tape. Is there a second for?
Second.
Okay, so motion and second to set the annexation area as shown on the attached map and discussed. Direct the adoption of zoning as RL and require the assumption of any portion of existing city indebtedness by the area to be annexed. Is there further discussion? I've had some conversations with the Oddfellows people. They have some kind of exciting projects that they're anticipating on this parcel. So I'm glad to see it moving forward. So all in favor?
Aye.
I too will vote aye. Opposed? That motion carries. We are at the manager's.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Heidi Barron, Sternaway, your city manager. Several announcements tonight. The council-funded grant programs, a subcommittee designation. So we're requesting that council designate a subcommittee to evaluate and score the applications received. Last year, Councilmember Goodlow and Councilmember David Miller and Councilmember Tab served on the committee. So our recommendation is that council appoint and we can take care of scheduling administratively.
Council members Goodlow and Miller, would you be interested in serving again? So I'm looking for one more recruit.
I would like to be on that because I feel like it'd be for the lodging tax one that comes up. I feel like that would be a good idea doing that.
Okay. Thank you for volunteering. So do you need a motion or can we just appoint?
I think
council
just
members
appointing is fine. Yeah.
Goodlow, Miller and Wynn to that subcommittee? And you all have to decide when you can meet. Figure that one out. How many applications do we have?
I didn't see the final number last week, so I will check on that.
And Lori is not here to keep us.
She is
moving on
not. She is
that.
out
The
today.
deadline-
She will be joining us part-time.
The deadline was August 31st.
Right.
But for us to. How long do we have?
No hard
before we have
deadline.
Oh,
Yeah, you get no-
Generally, we
Just-
do an adoption in November, so we have some time to review. Super. The next item I have is reassignment of council member Tab's boards and commissions. And so Councilmember Tab served as chair on the Affordable Housing Commission and also PTAC, the Public Transit Advisory Commission. He also served on the Finance Committee, which is 2 council members and staff, and the COG, the Council of Governments, and also the Chamber Liaison. One recommendation from staff is that as you consider appointment next week, we could also include an item on that agenda to look at all of the boards and commissions and decide at that point if the folks want to do some trading of boards and commissions as well. Does that sound?
I think we need to wait until we have a new council member in place. Is there anything that needs to be covered this month?
Let's
or
see
in the
here.
next-
I believe the Affordable Housing Commission, I think that they met last week. So, that's this week. And so it's actually tomorrow. So, yeah. And so that's a missed opportunity unless there's someone who would like to stand in for that service. And the rest are on the 3rd week of the
What
month.
time is it tomorrow?
Is there a vice chair for that committee that can
Yeah,
Kelly is
Jamie
saying
should know.
yes.
Could I weigh in just so you're not appointing someone? That meeting is actually not going to happen tomorrow. It has been canceled due to lack of agenda items, so we will not be meeting tomorrow. But they are at 5, they are at 4:30, those meetings.
Jamie, you look like you're at a football
Yeah,
field.
where's the kickoff?
I was, sorry, softball field.
I was gonna say on COG, it is what it is. The last meeting, I was gonna report anyway, the August meeting of COG was a no-go because of lack of quorum. And it was going to be Councilmember Tabb's last COG meeting, but he didn't make it. So it could happen. They're having some problems getting participation from Upper County. So I don't think that in itself should adjust our timeline, but it is an issue.
Okay,
Excellent. So we will add that item to the September 12th meeting as an agenda. So since the meeting got substantially shorter.
so we still have the two candidates in the room. Think about what y'all want to serve on. And staff can provide you with the complete list, and we can do some trading around.
Wonderful. So third, just an announcement, the city received a Washington State Broadband Office matching grant. We had a $473,000 grant to extend our fiber system out to our city infrastructure, our city well and Hayward well, which is amazing. The cost went up and the state provided a match. So this will be fully funded, and it's an opportunity for partnership with a private provider to provide service, broadband service to unserved and underserved area outside the city limits. And so this is part of that excess capacity model. We call this a middle mile project that we're able to support and reach some of our infrastructure connection goals, which is very, very important. Then also provide some private benefits. So we'll be moving that one forward as well. So great news there, and good job to staff for keeping on top of that. And then finally, just to notice that at our next meeting on September 19th, we have scheduled a public hearing for surplus property that's city owned on Dollarway Road. So that's all I have for tonight. And I believe we do have an executive session tonight.
Okay, I think we'll do council member reports first. Councilmember Elliott.
Missed the KitCom meeting, attended the planning commission meeting. You saw the results. I missed the KitCom meeting, right? Yes, okay. Apparently I was missed. Other than that, severe fire risk for the next week and our team's up, so I may not be there next week. That's all I
Okay.
got.
We will miss your opinion.
Hope you are.
So Councilmember Goodloe,
Yes.
speak loudly into the
Oh,
microphone.
yes. I guess I must have a soft voice. So I attended Law and Justice Committee meeting, and things seem to be moving along there with their various projects and agenda items. Met with the Homeless Affordable Housing Committee last week. We had a discussion of the proposed sleep center, and there was questions and interest in how the cost for that is going to be split between the city and the county. And Commissioner Oshadich said the ad hoc committee was figuring that out. So that seemed to make everybody happy. There's also a discussion about, they actually reviewed our ordinance, our camping on public property ordinance that we just passed, and agreed that it would be something good for the county to try to do. And I understand the county staff is working on a possibility of some kind of ordinance that would complement what we have done. And then there was an announcement so far, at least as of last Thursday, no church has stepped up to host the cold weather shelter this year. So that's a issue. A lot of people very concerned about that.
Is there a plan for getting there?
I believe there are some plans. City manager is on top of that. And there is Plan B.
Okay.
Camping at Heidi's house.
Yeah.
Whitfield Triangle.
Yeah, Whitfield Triangle. Yeah, so that's my report.
My only meeting was before mentioned COG, meeting council government meeting, which didn't officially happen because we didn't have a quorum, but we stuck around and talked for an hour off the record. One of the things that came up in the conversation, or really was the main conversation, was, as we recall, Councilmember Elliott has been briefing us periodically on the state of KitCom and the escalating costs that are going to be borne by all users. It has risen to a level, and I don't want to get into that because I don't know the details, but Commissioner Wright posed the question to COG about maybe we need to change how we think about responding to these challenges and kicking around some ideas about sort of a regional approach to problem solving, which sounds very interesting. I'm not quite sure what that would look like. I think there was just consensus that this is as Councilmember Elliott has said, this is going to be a problem for a lot of jurisdictions, and the solution is, I don't know that it is an easy solution. So I just put that out there just to let everyone know that, as we've heard here, the issues sort of making the rounds, and it's going to become, correct me if I'm wrong, it'll be in our lap eventually, but it sounds like there's some interest in sort of.
Well, I don't know that it's necessarily going to be in our lap. It's sort of, there's sort of parallel issues here. Commissioner Wright's talking about consolidation of emergency services in Kittitas County, which is not new. It is, I did my thesis on it 22 years ago. So, and it is not a new concept. That has little or nothing to do with the cost of running KitCom. KitCom's essentially a consolidated communication center anyway. That bill has to be paid, both capital and operating costs. Regardless of what we do, I think what Commissioner Wright's referring to is the idea that you can create some level of efficiency by consolidating fire, EMS, and law enforcement agencies in Kittitas County, and then some of those funds could be used to pay for KitCom. But there is zero chance that you're going to drive down the cost of KitCom through consolidation. You just may be able to fund it differently.
Yeah, and I don't want to misrepresent what Commissioner Wright said. The conversation had less to do about how are we going to find the money, more to do with how do we solve the problems, and it wasn't limited to KitCom. So it was sort of this broad sort of conversation about things like using the regional transportation planning model, something that takes the decision making and makes it, elevates it somehow. Again, I don't quite understand how that's going to work, or there's no proposal really. It's just a conversation. So I just put it out there. I think it does intersect with what Councilmember Elliott said, but that may be what's promoting or prompting the conversation, but it's not the only conversation. So I just wanted to share that. That's all.
Councilmember.
Attended a subcommittee meeting of landmarks and design to continue to review the streeteries ordinance that I believe will then go to the full commission and then back to council. They're also taking up conversation again around the demolition ordinance. Today, I attended the stakeholder meeting for Reed Park master planning process. And over the last week, I've been able to go running on the new and improved PTC connector on Alder, which is awesome.
It looks great.
It looks great. Me and my dog Pickles appreciate it.
Beautiful. Okay. Councilmember Nguyen.
I don't have any report at this time. All my meetings are coming up within the next 3 weeks.
Okay. I judged jokes at the fair. Would you like to hear the winning joke? I was wondering why the Frisbee was getting bigger and bigger, and then it hit me. What?
That is good. Good job.
I also attended the rodeo on Monday, courtesy of the rodeo board. I appreciate that. It was fun. I met the new airport director today, David Orr, I believe. It was his first day, so he is just getting his kind of feet underneath him. And figuring out the lay of the land. So his wings, not his feet, of course. And we decided to, rather than have our regular airport advisory committee next, I think it's Tuesday evening, have a meet and greet. So hopefully we'll get advertisements out for that. I saw a notice that the Board of County Commissioners is looking for volunteers to consider a new county administrator, changing up how they do things pretty significantly. And
That's not a new idea either.
no, that's been floating around a long time.
Everything is new again, yes.
And met with a group of folks who are interested in submitting a grant to study geothermal at Central, to a district-wide geothermal system to replace some of the steam plant stuff. And the city would be a supporter of that grant, not the lead. And so the first year is a study, get all the questions answered kind of on paper, and then you would submit the proposal for actual funding. So that was kind of exciting. So with that, we have an executive.
I believe you have the letters for
Oh, right.
approval.
There are a couple of, we only have one. There was two.
Oh, we didn't get it. Okay. Is it on the printer? Okay, perfect.
So, so there's two letters of support for Hope Source grants, public transit grants. One is for the Kittitas Connector to go up to Upper County, Lower County, and the other was for, I can't remember.
Is it paratransit?
Paratransit. I guess I'm asking permission to sign.
Move to have the mayor sign both letters of support for Hope Source transportation programs.
Second. Motion and second to have the mayor sign the letters of support for the Hope Source transportation programs. All in favor?
Aye.
I too will vote aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, so now we have an executive session per RCW 42.30.1101B to consider the selection of a site or the acquisition of real estate by lease or purchase when public knowledge regarding such consideration would cause likelihood of increased price.
Anticipate 5 minutes and no action.
5 minutes, no action. Thank you.
You water yet? Yeah, I'm doing okay. I'm rationing.
Your dumb water.
Motion to adjourn.
Second to adjourn, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That was one of those.
See you next week. Yes.